These questions can exist in so many truths, in so many contexts. If we completely miss the mark, don't fucking listen to us.
Sorry, my armpit is itching, but continue.
No, please, it's your armpit.
Okay. And I so vividly remember journaling about romanticizing loneliness. And that really weirdly helped me.
Thoughts on my therapist calling my situationship of 4 to 5 years my soulmate. Do you think they're your soulmate? It sounds like no.
Blink twice. Wait, I want this whole story.
I was young. I was in my early 20s. I was swept up in it. I was stressed all the time. I would fucking went on antidepressants.
And then immediately my shame spiral was like, so if you don't do it, you lazy bitch, it's like proving to you that you're lazy. Says the girl who just did an entire episode on shadow work.
I was
right.
Yeah.
So clearly there's a lot to unpack.
Therapist, situationship.
Oh my God, call us.
Ring the line. And we're back.
And we're back.
You asked, we answered. That's it.
That's it.
Let's get to it.
We have nothing else to say. No, we should say hi.
No, but every single time we're like, you asked the best question. And you do, but we say the same thing every time with Q&As. But hi, how do you feel?
Great.
You're looking at me like you want to kill me.
Well, I just don't want to,
Okay.
I feel like we just had the second coffee of the day. I'm feeling like I could run a marathon. I'm excited to be here and answer questions. You know what I feel like?
So should we start?
I feel like Kristen Wiig in Bridesmaids. She's like, en la escuela azul.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Take it away.
How to start good habits and really stick to them.
I don't know, bitch. How do you do that? Because I'm still figuring it out.
I think we've talked about this before, but building self-trust is so important when starting new habits. So like really scaling back and just being really fucking honest with yourself and starting small. And I know it's easy to say that and people are like, well, I want to do the thing anyway.
Sorry, my armpit is itching, but continue.
No, please, it's your armpit.
Okay,
get in there. The thing is that anytime you say you're going to do something and you don't show up for yourself, you're sending messages to yourself about your ability to show up. And
you
build
reframed
self-trust.
that for me. And then immediately my shame spiral was like, so if you don't do it, you lazy bitch, it's like proving to you that you're lazy. Says the girl who just did an entire episode on shadow work.
I was
right.
Yeah.
So clearly there's a lot to unpack, but it is tough because when you reframe it that way, it is hard to not internalize it as if you don't do it, then you're like immediately calling yourself a lazy piece of shit.
But that's like everything with self-work. Like it's that kind balance between where can I take accountability and where can I give myself grace for being a fucking human?
Totally.
So I think scaling back allows you to play with that balance and like get through the mud of that feeling really sticky and then slowly start building into things. I also think building environments in which support the habit you want to do. So like Atomic Habits talks about if you want to be a reader, when you make your bed in the morning, put the book on your pillow. So by the time you go to bed at night, it's there. You're just creating environments around you to support the habit. Those are two big ones. Also just like intentional time. I think like if you don't already have a morning and I'm kind of assuming they have a morning and evening routine.
Yeah.
If you don't, setting that up and setting a list of things you want to do and then kind of just flowing with whatever feels good in and of that day. So maybe different parameters in terms of if you have a goal of wanting to start a new habit or a couple, you could make that list, but then give yourself the flexibility every day to not have to show up for all of them and pick and choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
So you're slowly leaning in and trying new ones on.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
No, I like that. I don't know if you said this already because I kind of blacked out in the beginning of that answer. I don't know why. But
your shadow was like disassociate. Full
immediately.
disassociate.
Gabby is no longer here. Sometimes I'll make too hefty of a list, even like with habits. And then I feel bad when I can't accomplish all of them because I'm not realistic about how much time something takes me to do.
Fair.
So that has been something that I've been thinking about a lot more in the new year when it comes to even just like planning out my work day. Like I'm getting much more realistic about how long does it actually take me to do something and what's like the buffer time, which I don't know if you noticed, but I brought up a lot when we were talking about coming here to record.
Which was smart because we've needed it every day.
Yeah. Meadow's like, we're going to show up at 11:30 and by 11:35, we're going to be sitting down and record. And I'm like, no, you're going to come. You've never met Zena in person. We're going to talk shit for 30 minutes. I'm going to go fix my lipstick. I'm going to have to pee 75 times. Like we're going to start at noon. Like, let's be realistic. And so giving myself that buffer time, but also being realistic about how long I like to do things and not feel like rushed about stuff is really helpful. And then also just taking some things off the list sometimes allows me to then feel really accomplished with those habits and routines that I am able to get done. I love like checking things off a list.
I think you also bring up a really good point to speak to motivation and discipline.
Yes.
And especially when forming a new habit, it's hard to always find the intrinsic motivation. But if there's small ways to help you remind yourself of that while building the discipline to turn actions into a long-term habit, like there's a dance between the two that I think lands differently for everyone.
I mean, motivation is inevitably going to dwindle. That's when your discipline has to kick in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Diary CEO taught me that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out Stephen Bartlett. How do I decentralize romantic relationships from my life?
I'm assuming this person is single.
I guess.
Maybe not, actually, because maybe you're like centralizing the person.
And
what are you
diminishing friendships to be with a partner type thing?
My immediate reaction is like, what are you ignoring? What discomfort when you're alone are you ignoring?
Perfect question to ask.
Because that, from my experience, is usually what it is. And we talked about this in another Q&A about distraction and healthy distraction and how that's good and positive, but there's like a very fine line. And I feel like that is the fine line. Is like when you're over centralizing someone else's narrative and someone else's story. And if you become too much of the like, if I find this person, then this will happen. Or when I find this person, then this. Like the if, then, when, whatever the fuck construct.
Have to be. Yeah.
Have to be. Thank you. Like I hate to come across as the girl in a relationship who's all of a sudden like fucking holier than thou. Because like
we all do it. Yeah.
We all do it. We do it when we're in relationships. But that's like my gut reaction.
It's kind of where my brain went to. But in terms of the how, like being willing to look at those things and unpack that.
In terms of being actually helpful, please tell us what to do.
That's the main step, right? And then wherever that lack lies, like in whatever context that lack is, finding the ways to give that lack to yourself rather than outsourcing it to a romantic relationship. Yeah. Like, where can you give to yourself what you're seeking in those relationships?
Ooh,
because that stops putting the pressure or the priority to find it there and instead find it within you.
I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I remember when I first moved to LA and I was going through a breakup, I was starting to feel really lonely. And I remember I was sitting outside one day and I so vividly remember journaling about romanticizing loneliness and getting really cozy with it, because one day I'm going to be hiding in my fucking pantry because these stupid kids won't leave me alone, and I'm going to miss this moment that I was lonely. And that really weirdly helped me.
Well, because nothing lasts forever.
And I was like, this is kind of nice.
You almost get nostalgic about your present, knowing that this present won't last forever.
I know when I did it, at least when I centralized romantic relationships too much, particularly when I was single, none of the relationships that I was attracting were positive for me.
I also think maybe this is, again, projecting from like a specific POV, but don't put your eggs in one basket. So rather than putting multiple needs onto a romantic relationship, disseminating what needs can be served from platonic, which ones can be served from family, which can you give to yourself. And
not one person is going to give you everything.
Yeah. Thoughts on my therapist calling my situationship of 4 to 5 years my soulmate. You got to laugh from Zena on that one. I think I need more context.
I want to like phone my therapist in.
Do you think they're your soulmate? It sounds like no.
Like, did you call them a soulmate and then they're...
No, it sounds like the therapist said the word soulmate first, but I can't tell if they agree with that or not. It feels like they don't.
I find that like really inappropriate.
I do too. I totally do. That's my gut reaction, but I don't know context.
If I'm being like too fucking sensitive, but like, because isn't your therapist supposed to be like pretty neutral? Like, obviously, like they want you to win, but like
also
they're not supposed to like give you
to guide you to your own answers, and let you.
That's
make
what I'm trying to say.
Conclusions for your own life, not like tell you what things are.
Right.
Yeah. So I would love for you to send us a specific DM about a lot of context.
Wait, I want this whole story.
I want the story.
And also,
I want the story, but my gut reaction is like, eeks.
I mean, listen, maybe it's because my therapist said this to me 2 days ago. She was like, by the way, if I ever say something to you that makes you like feel some type of way, tell
me.
me. She was like, I don't want this to be a weird power dynamic of like, you're paying me and I'm your therapist and I'm the expert and blah, blah, blah. She's like, I want you, like, we're human beings. Like, talk to me that way. So I would encourage you to, if it made
Bring
you
it up.
uncomfortable or it made you feel clearly it made you feel some sort of way because you fucking wrote into us about it. I would like tell your therapist and be like, hey, like this made me feel XYZ way. And that could be an interesting thing to explore because I find that weird.
Yeah, I do too. And I would love the full story to speak to it further. But I would agree. It's a cool opportunity to communicate because therapists are human. You know what I mean?
And then their
like,
reaction to that will also be telling.
Yes. If their reaction to that is inappropriate, find a new therapist. If it's growth and room for nuance and you learn that even therapists can be humans and you can like gain more understanding together and build a relationship together that feels more supportive, badass.
God, but that must be frustrating because that's like, if like a psychic tells, you know what I mean?
No, I mean,
like, it's
in my
putting
head to take it with no context, to take it extreme.
Take it there.
It's giving the Twin Flame documentary. When they just like tell you someone that you've never met this man, but he's your twin flame and you have to be with him.
Are you in that cult? Blink twice. Do you need us to save you?
Laugh. I'm so sorry.
Do you need us to save you from those fucking weirdos?
Please DM us if you need us to save you.
No, I stalked the shit out of those people after that documentary.
They're still
Have
going,
you seen
huh?
it?
You should watch it. They just weaponize self-help.
It's awful.
Good question for you next. Dealing with parents divorcing with younger siblings while maintaining myself as a priority. Please help.
I mean, I don't know because I was the younger sibling.
But so then you can speak to like, what did you need that you would have liked from an older sibling, or like what did
I don't know. I've always, to be honest, never really thought my parents' divorce affected me until like this year. Because my mom, to her credit, did like, she just took one so for the team and like really, really never let us see like, I don't remember her crying. She never talked badly about my dad. But, and I was so young. I was like 6 or 7 when they got divorced. Yeah. So I think kids also really want to make sure it's not their fault. That's like where my head immediately goes is like you automatically as a child think that you did something.
Or you could have changed anything.
Or you could have changed something or, you know, like I heard them fight and I like saw after effects of fights and like there were moments where I'm like, okay, like, could I have said something to my dad to make him not be mad? Could I have said whatever? And that was one of the first things that my mom told us was like, you didn't do anything. You can't fix it, blah, blah, blah. So I think like reinforce, it sounds like you're also a lot older than your younger siblings.
Yeah.
So I just like reinforcing that narrative that like they're good and that like.
It doesn't have to do with them.
It doesn't have to do with them. Like mom and dad are like people that like, that's their experience. And like, holding space for whatever emotion comes, I think is really helpful. And then also like finding the silver linings of like, we get 2 Christmases or we get 2 Thanksgiving or we get like whatever it is that you guys are like finding the positive in. I would find the silver linings. And then as the older sibling, like, you know, I've never even asked my sister this question. I feel like it is an interesting question to ask her of like making sure that you're also not taking on a new role as a parent because you're not their parent. And I really hope that you're not in a situation where you feel like that's being thrusted upon you because that can be really, really difficult. And sometimes it's not safe to have those conversations in your house. So I don't want to like give someone advice if they don't feel safe.
Right.
There's a lot of free resources online, I feel like, and a lot of like support groups online and remembering to like do things that fill up your cup. Yeah.
I'm not a child of divorce, so I can only speak to it in terms of I've had difficult family dynamics. So I can speak to it in like understanding that without being the same context. Just the first thing that came to mind was like really making sure you have support outside of your family unit.
Yeah.
So whether you need to ask for mental health support from a professional, whether you can find like a free or like sliding scale or online support, like whatever way that looks for you.
School counselor,
like whatever way that looks for you, having support outside of the family unit to unpack and like hold space and work through all that stuff so that you have more space to not take on the burden of being a third parent or to be like a pillar of light for your siblings because you are getting like the needs met or the support outside. So it's not forced in a situation that's hard. Like I had to go seek outside support to have more bandwidth to be in the hard situation through the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's like it's like very hard to do that on your own. I think you need like a separate container to do that, to bring it back.
First of all, divorce is such a funny thing because it's it's like an equalizer for kids and their parents because you're all going through
the same thing,
like a different experience, but it's because of
the
same thing.
Yeah.
But it reminds you or shows you for the first time that your parents are human beings. And that's really weird.
Yeah.
And destabilizing.
Yeah, it is.
And divorce is really destabilizing. So like another thing that I was thinking is like how I started this question by saying I never realized how it affected me until now. And it's because now I'm the closest I've ever been. Not that I'm like gonna fucking pop out a child anytime soon or like get married right now, but like I am the closest I've ever been to like where those things are more real than ever. And even going through things with my boyfriend now, like fighting for a relationship, like often I've noticed it just being a child of divorce. Like sometimes, even though this isn't what it is, because like everyone tries hard, like especially like when kids are involved, like odds are they tried hard to stay together and they knew this was the best thing for you guys and for the family. But it's at least in me kind of ingrained like especially because it happened so young, it ingrained like people don't fight for relationships. And if you do fight for a relationship, it's not healthy. And then that got reinforced by the relationships I was
you shouldn't
fighting.
have to fight. It should be easy. That was the belief that came from it.
Yeah, that like if you,
Okay.
And like if you choose to fight for a relationship, it's wrong. Like the relationship is wrong.
Got it.
Like it's a bad relationship.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to fight for it.
Okay.
And
I can see
like
how
no one taught me that. I don't blame my parents for that.
Totally. But I can so see that interpretation from going through that experience.
Right.
100%.
So I bring that up to say, keep your heart open as you get older and remind your younger siblings through that journey that like their story doesn't need to be your story.
Yeah. I'm going to be so myself right now. Go on YouTube and Google Ram Dass, Keeping Your Heart Open in Hell. It's like a 12-minute snippet of a lecture that's like really beautiful and supportive. And it's very motivating if you need to hear it.
Hey everyone, popping in to say thank you to all of the amazing people who listen and watch this podcast. We're so grateful for each and every one of you and truly cannot say thank you enough for tuning in every single week.
In order for us to keep bringing you all great conversations and continue building our community and raising the bar, we're asking you for some simple and free support. Subscribe to our channel, follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts, and keep up with us on social @ThoughtsMayVaryPod.
And if you're looking to dive even deeper, you can join our exclusive Patreon community and download Co-Create, our digital manifestation journal filled with over 150 prompts to help guide your curiosity and unlock new layers of yourself.
Thanks for being here. How to cope with feelings of having to work with people who drain your energy or leave you fatigued.
They're having to work with?
Yeah. Been there. Energetic boundaries. I am just such a fucking mindfulness bitch because as we know, if you listen to a couple episodes ago, the narratives that I can make up, especially with people that are like draining your energy or taking stuff from you or are hard to be around, it's so easy for me to take that on and make it in my own energetic field or make it my problem or take things personally or whatever. So really like my own separate mindfulness meditation practice builds the space to put space between me and that. Even just finding like protocols within the workday. If you can put a sign on your door, if someone comes in and needs you and they're like, we need you right now, you can say, can you say I'm in the middle of something? Like I'll come back to you in a bit, you know, whatever sort of like supportive boundaries you can make around your work. Remember we were talking, not my circus, not my monkeys.
Yeah.
Like just finding healthy ways to put distance between yourself to see what they're doing and know it's not about you, especially at work. Like people can make that shit so personal, but it's really not about you. Whoever you need to lean on, however you need to go at the end of the day. I know we used to talk about when I worked in direct service, one person always talked about the act of putting on their like name tag. Because you have like little tags and whatever in lanyards. And they're like, when I put that on, I like phase into that version of myself that's ready to be in there. And when I take it off, like I leave that shit there, like energetically. So even finding some sort of ritual, like if you're putting on your sunglasses before leaving, just because I'm looking at like whatever it is to signal to yourself, I'm going into this right now. And like, this isn't all it is. And it's lots of energy. And here's how I'm going to show up. And then when I take it off, I fucking leave that shit at the door and then find ways to like ground your nervous system at the end of the day. But that is hard. That's hard. And I've been there. Yeah. And granted, when I was in that, I didn't do any of that shit. I was young. I was in my early 20s. I was swept up in it. I was stressed all the time. I would fucking went on antidepressants. So like that's all coming from someone that is looking from hindsight. I didn't do that during the thing.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Listen.
So it's so hard. It's so hard.
No notes to what you just said. The only thing I'll add is too is like not to be the fucking gossip police because like stop being boring. But like, listen, I love a little chisme. I love a little gossip. But
at what point? Yeah.
Make sure that that is not energetically overwhelming you because then it is going to become like the only thing you're thinking about.
You know,
because even if it feels good to like dump, like you're still in that same cycle and like you got to let it the fuck go because you're trying to like not have that absorb your entire life. You want to leave that shit at the door and like they are not worth your breath because they're probably really fucking annoying anyway.
You know, I love the fucking research on venting. Like venting is only self-serving and like giving your brain more excuses for why you should be mad and it makes you mad. Like venting is not, oh, I got it out and now I feel better. Venting is literally studied and proven to make you double down and why you should feel the way you feel
you're
and validate
flames.
your own stuff. You're fanning flames.
I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying.
No, and I listen, there's like a time and a place and sometimes it feels good. It is hard. Just some tips.
Just some tips from us.
Ooh, I like this. What question do you wish people would ask you?
What question do I wish?
I can let you know when I was in college, the whole reason why I fucking do this career and why the podcast makes me so happy is because when I was in college, all I wanted was the space to talk about my human experiences and my brother killing himself and like all this shit and have people like listen to that, knowing that I'm okay. I'm not asking to trauma it up. I'm not asking to put stuff on you, but almost like asking, how are you? And receiving a real answer and not trying to fix it.
I'm like not feeling weird about it.
Yeah. But this space solved that for me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, that's like a past version of myself, how I would answer that. But I'm trying to think in this version of myself.
What does 27-year-old Gabby wish someone asked her?
Like, okay, how about this? When I'm hearing that, I think about like how deeply important art is to me. And people don't know that and therefore don't ask about it. So I don't know if I want people to ask about art to me per se, but like I think there's an aspect of my identity in that, like the old dancer and the writer and the art and people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's an aspect of me there that feels not as seen and recognized by people outside of my really close circle.
Fair.
That I would love for people to see that part of me.
There's so many parts of me that people on the internet don't know.
But which parts of that do you feel like would your soul like to be shared about you? You know, because we do talk about like what is not for public consumption and like what would like to be shared. I feel like that's what this question's kind of getting at.
I think it's just like my like more funny, like lighthearted, playful.
I'd love to be asked like, what did you listen to in the car on the way here?
The thing that came to my brain was so simple, and it's because I always like to make sure people are like fucking hydrated. I'm like, do you want a water?
Oh, I would love to be asked that more.
Like,
because I always want more water.
Maybe it's
Zena,
because
you ask us that constantly when we're here, by the way.
I was about to say maybe it's because I spent 2 years of my life being someone's assistant tracking their water intake.
Yeah,
not by their request. Let me just the record,
out of your own
because
concern.
I was like genuinely concerned. I was like, you've had only iced tea today.
That's crazy.
Here's the water.
I love that. I'm stealing that. It's would you like some water today?
Yeah.
That's a fun question though. I'm gonna sit with that more. I really love that.
Like she would always
honestly
tell me
that question in and of itself, I'd love to be asked more. Like that's thoughtful and fun.
Yeah. She would always tell me, like my old boss would always be like, if you weren't here, like I wouldn't eat because she like didn't have time and like would forget. And so it always made me like, even though you think that like being an assistant, people like poke fun or are like, I don't want to just get coffee and I don't want to just like get people's lunches.
You're a caregiver.
It really made me feel good about myself when like she was in a meeting and she'd get back from a meeting and she'd have her salad on her desk with her tea that she liked to drink and her silverware and her napkin, place nice. Like it made me feel happy to see her come back into her office and be like, thank you.
Someone cares about me. Like someone helped me through my day.
And then like watch her shovel it into her mouth because she was running late for something else. Like it made me happy to be like, let me make your day easier.
It's such a beautiful thing to give to someone. What would you suggest to lean into spirituality in your day-to-day life? Fucking make it day-to-day. Like listen to the Ram Dass lectures on your walk. Meditate, explore what your relationship with God or the universe or whatever like spirit and source is. Make little reminders, set an alarm on your phone at a random time. And every time it pings, sit and think like, oh, am I present? Am I tapped in? What would it feel like to be connected to that right now? Like ask yourself questions, ask people around you, be curious, be present, be in nature. I mean, nature is fucking source to me. Like there's nothing like perspective being out offline on a walk or on the beach
Yeah.
or whatever.
My immediate reaction was so like high thoughts because it
Ooh,
was like
love that.
literally talk to yourself.
I love talking.
Like just talk to yourself because I don't even think it needs to be that deep. It's like especially someone that's like asking me like how can I develop more spirituality or like get more curious about spirituality. Like I don't want to give you like an action list. Like talk to yourself. Literally talk to yourself. Like talk out loud because like you're talking to someone. And I do it all the time. I'll be like, something funny will happen, or I'll have a thought and I'll be like, oh, that's so cool that manifestation came through, or oh, that's so cool that like my day was so smooth or whatever. And then like I'll audibly be like, thanks guys, like thanks team. And like I'll thank my angels and I'll thank my guides and I'll thank, the universe.
I talk to them all day.
Like thank God, whatever it is
All
that you
day.
believe in. I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Ugh, thanks guys. And the other day I got like chills.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know you're there. Like have those conversations, maybe even like with people that have passed. And then the other high thought is like nature. Cause I get which is why I love nature shows. I get so like heady when I watch. Cause I'm like, it is so fucking insane that like animals have instincts. and like we have instincts and like watching nature documentaries trip me out so much. And then when I see like footage of like Earth, I'm like, we're in a spinning rock in space that like we have no idea what's out there. And we're so small and like there's so much more. And if we think that we're the most important thing here, we're out of our goddamn
No,
minds.
that's crazy.
And that's when I get like, it's funny because it's like shit that you think of when you're like high, but it's like real as fuck.
No, literally on my drive up,
I don't even know how to say that. I'm be sounding so fucking stupid, but it's like,
no, it's true.
There's no other way for me to say it.
Every single time I drive to LA, even this last time, I say out loud, okay, angels, like come with me in the car, protect me on my drive. What's up? I look in the passenger seat and imagine my dad being there and I'm like, what up, dad? I like talk out loud.
Dude.
Constantly.
Always. And like, even if it's not there and you don't think it's real and whatever, like fine. And don't think it's real, but do it anyway. And just like see what happens.
Well, it sounds like this person thinks it's real because they want to explore spirituality, right? So it's like whatever way you feel tapped in, play with it. Fucking play.
Yeah.
Playing is spiritual. How do you stop yourself from mentally being the barrier to opportunities? Ooh, this is that. I think you were speaking to this in a different episode about self-awareness of patterns.
Yeah.
In the shadow episode, like really getting honest with yourself, putting down on paper, saying out loud what you don't want to admit, and then giving yourself the need that's not being met in order to course correct. And like doing the shadow work, like, why aren't you worth it? Why are you blocking yourself?
Yeah.
Like, what would it say about you if you got the thing you wanted? What message does that reinforce for you? Why is that a problem? Like, what could you, like asking all those questions?
Yeah.
I think this sounds like a good shadow work one.
It does.
If you're your own barrier and you're getting in the way, dive into that shadow work, baby.
This is when I also think some tough love is nice. Like this was the approach that I had going into 2024 where like I made all the jokes where I was like, I spent all 2023 like fucking journaling. Like what are we doing here, team?
Yeah.
Like obviously we know it's not a waste of time because we're learning about ourselves. We're whatever. But I'm like, all right, pedal to the metal, bitch. And that's how I think about this question where I'm like, sometimes you got to give a little tough love to yourself because how fucking shitty if you don't get the thing that you want and there are so many uncontrollable variables in this world and you
made your own,
you being the barrier to entry is ridiculous.
We're not doing it.
How pissed would you be if you make it to whatever other side there is and whoever's over there is like, hey, remember the lottery that you wanted to win?
Yeah.
But like you were too lazy to walk to the fucking grocery store that day to buy a lotto ticket. And that's the only reason that you didn't get it. How pissed would you be?
And this is the thing is like when this shit is wrapped up in trauma, when this shit is wrapped up in like real hurt and real barriers or whatever.
I'm being a little.
No, I still like your opinion because the whole thing is like this can be hard or this can be flippant. And I think when this is hard, the same thing applies. And I've said this before and people don't want to hear it and they get mad at me for it. And I don't care because I'm like, at the end of the day, you're still in your own way. Like, how long do you want to be a victim to this own thing? Like, it's the hardest truth to hear because accountability is so hard, especially like if you are a victim of trauma outside of yourself. Like, we can hold space for that and still you can change your perspectives. You can change how you move on. You can like, there's so much more in your control And that's really hard to hear when other things happen to you, but how you move forward, how you interpret things, what messages you tell to yourself about it, all that shit's in your control. And that accountability is fucking hard to reconcile with, but that's what you need to do.
Yeah. Do you know what that
Not you, but like
Yeah.
a greater you.
when you brought up like victimhood and staying in victim mentality, it automatically makes my mind go to how different do we think this world would look if our society was set up for people to be safe, to come forward
Mm.
when traumas happen and feel safe in the authority figures around them that are supposed to help them in those situations? And if we had easier access to resources to help us, how would that I'm just curious, like, statistically, how that would impact people's behavior, how would it impact people's ability to move on
Mhm.
and not keep themselves in victimhood because they've had the space provided to them to try and heal from it.
And I can already hear another perspective being like, well, watch people take advantage of that. And you're like, watch them do it now.
Yeah.
Human behavior is human behavior. They're doing it now anyway. So why wouldn't, if that's going to happen no matter what, why not also offer support to the people it's really happening to?
Why not not continue to ignore reality? For sure.
How do I increase productivity without becoming sick from the stress? Here's the thing, redefine what productivity means to you. Because I think productivity looks very different for different people. I think productivity looks different to me than it does to you.
Yeah.
And I think figuring out, especially if you're saying you are sensitive, like your definition of success within productivity does not need to look like your bosses or your families or your best friends or whatever else. And I think we're fed a lot of messages about what productivity looks like.
Yeah.
And I think getting really clear about what in that is like an ego desire to fill and where in that do you need to just fucking honor the unique person you are and work with your strengths and not against yourself to the point where you get sick.
Right, because then you're going to be able to do nothing. Then you're
No, that's the
completely
stress
unproductive.
curve. That's the stress curve. Like you're
Right.
going to go to burnout so fucking fast. And the only way to go from burnout back to the optimum level of stress is rest. Like you genuinely have to do that. So if your balance is shorter than that, then you need to set up support systems in place to lean into that and not look at how much longer someone else can work than you and shame yourself for it. If you can't, rather than all that energy expressed shaming yourself for it, why don't you actually just take the rest and then come back? Like your days can be structured if you have the parameters to do that. Like the way you structure your day and the way you structure your energy. I understand that like not everyone has freedom in a job. So I'm saying whatever is in your control within that way. But finding ways to support your own unique journey of what that looks like and not looking to other people, because it sounds like you're just going to keep burning yourself out by trying to compare that, whatever that like goal of productivity is,
Yeah.
to the people around you.
Also, I don't know if this is like a really flippant approach because I don't know your job. Like,
Totally,
I don't know
totally.
if
I
you're
don't know.
like, if it really is like life or death situations because I don't want to like give a flippant
I mean, every
response.
single one of these answers, we don't have enough context. Like we're
Right.
always coming
So I
from our
don't-
perspective
Yeah, I don't
anyway.
want someone to be like a nurse
No,
or like
totally.
a first responder and
Totally.
I'm giving you this flippant ass answer. So like hold space for that, please. But I wonder, without sounding like condescending, because that's not what I mean, if there's an opportunity for you to like learn how to prioritize a little bit better.
Totally.
And if there's
That's
an
fair.
opportunity for that, because we try and accomplish a million things in a day, and that's not always possible. And so getting really real with yourself about what can actually wait until tomorrow without it being like because you're just pushing it off and you're being
Right.
like, you're procrastinating, but
Right.
like being really, really real about what can actually wait until tomorrow
I love
and
to-do lists.
prioritizing
I
in that
prioritize my
way
to-do list. Yeah, I love that.
and like not living and not feeding into like a fire drill
Mhm.
culture, which again, you might not have control over because it just might be the
Nature of the job.
and like I'm not going to sit here with zero context and be like, quit your job. Like,
No,
find
of
anyone.
course, of course.
I think also like just finding ways to cope with your stress because you don't want it to eat at you. Whether it's like, are you in therapy? Are you going for a run? I don't know. But like whatever it is that you need to do in order to somehow fill your cup back up, even like to the fucking halfway mark,
Mhm.
I encourage you to try and do because something is better than nothing. And I know that I can very easily, when I'm like really at my peak, I don't even want to do the tiniest thing to feel better. In fact, I'm going to do the thing to feel worse. It's like I'm already there.
Yeah.
But even if you do like the one thing,
Yeah.
it makes you feel so accomplished because you're like, I really, really didn't want to do this, but like I feel proud and I feel better because I did it.
Yeah. You sparked an idea for me in that coping. it could be cool, again, if there's an opportunity to do a coping activity that gets you into a flow state, because then transferring that skill, and the more often you understand getting into a flow state, what it feels like, and like easing your brain into that, that could translate to getting into a flow state at work that helps increase your productivity.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like if you can after work do a mindful coloring book or do something that like gets you in that, like ignoring everything to zoom in, losing track of time, getting lost in it, how can that translate to like batching whatever, you know, fucking forms you're filling out, and all of a sudden you do so much more so quickly because you're in that zone. Like if you can translate that from like a fun coping and then like have your brain go into it, I don't know, just an option. I mean, we say this with, I think we from time to time throw this in Q&As, but it is important. Like this is the full length of the question we're getting. These questions can exist in so many truths and so many contexts. So we're just taking it from our own perspective, vessels, and interpretations. If we completely miss the mark, don't fucking listen to us. Like
literally ignore, Control, Delete.
Everything is about if we say something that pings in you as like, ooh, maybe that's interesting, great, explore it. If it pings as like, whoa, definitely not that, also data, explore something else. Yeah, again, Q&As are hard.
Yeah, Q&As are hard.
But I actually love them. They're fun. Again, like that back and forth is so special and important. But this is like 90 characters of context. So take it all with a grain, baby. Take it all with a grain.
I like that we don't agree on a lot of stuff. I think it makes us more interesting.
Duh. It makes it so much more fun. What do we want to be, in an echo chamber with each other? You push me in like the best way. Like I want to be surrounded by people that expand me, push me, grow, hold mirrors in different ways. Like that's all we do. And I love it. You know why? Because we always do it with like fucking 5 minutes before we started recording, when we were talking about something for work and how to position it and something that could be really translatable for you. And you said you should do it for me. And I was like, no, that's not how I want to do it. But you're watching something you want to do for yourself that you're like, oh, there could be value in this for what Meadow wants to do, even though it's a different goal.
Yeah.
And so you suggest it to me, and and I can still say to you, I see that value. That's not how I want to do it. And you're like, fair. But you expand ways and show me other ways in which I can accomplish something for me. You know what I mean? Like that's why this is special.
Yeah.
That's why this is special.
And not to be like, we are fantastic, but like what I like about our dynamic and our best friendship is that buffering. We're like, I basically live inside of your asshole. We're like,
it's cozy.
We're so different.
Yeah.
And neither one of us is trying to get the other one to be more similar to them.
Yeah.
And as you grow, I'm excited by it. And as I grow, you're excited by it.
Even if we grow in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we will remain close.
Yeah, me too.
Because we have mutual respect for each other's journeys.
No, we're each other's number one fan.
And
we're rooting for each other.
I think it was lucky that we met each other at a time
where
it sounds like you've kind of always been like this in your friendships, but like, but I'm just saying, like, I like that we met each other at a time where it was like we were able to know that we wanted the person closest to us to be somebody who was not exactly like us.
And we entered being very clear about that
than me.
Yeah. And we started, like, I think that's what's fun in terms of that can be hard with a longstanding best friend that you've had when you're 4, all of a sudden to say that versus like you're saying, you and I entered being like, this is important and this is what we're seeking. And you feel different from me. And that's cool. And I like that. And I want to, you know what I mean? Like we entered with that perspective a little bit more. Love you.
Love you.
Thanks for doing this with me.
Same.
Like every week.
All right.
Therapist, situationship.
Oh my God. Call us.
Ring the line.
I don't know what line that is, but ring
DM.
a line.
I want to know.
I'm like 911 emergency.
We will unpack it later.
No.
We need to know.
Bring that therapist on the pod. Intervention.
We become the Maury show. We're like, and now.
No, literally. Okay, bye.
Bye.
How's it going, y'all? It's Aaron. Don't let your Monday suck. Don't have those Sunday scaries. I'm tired of everybody waking up in the week saying, shit, it's Monday. You know what goes down? TMV releases every week on Mondays. Make sure you rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching YouTube, yes, TMV has a YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and ring that noti bell and never miss a thing. And also, Join the TMV Familia by joining the Thoughts May Vary Patreon and by following at Thoughts May Vary Pod on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you for listening.
Great.
There you go.
Thanks, AB.
Got y'all.